Good morning to one present for today's session. With the consent of the convener, we are starting our FTDP phase by AICT Delhi. And first session, we have Dr. Kavya Shri as our resource person. Dr. R. Shri is Professor Department of Biotechnology, Coordinator, BICEP, Director, the Oxford Science Skill Enhancement Center, the Oxford College of Science, Bangalore. Madam PhD in biotechnology and has a vast research experience, around 25 years of research and 18 years into teaching. She is in plant biotechnology and has held key positions as a senior research fellow at SIR Delhi in CFTRI Mysore. She is also guest faculty in the Department of Botany, Bangalore University, as a research associate, Department of Botany, Bangalore University, as a guest faculty and a DST Women Scientist A, Department of Biology, Bangalore University. She also served as a professor in Christu Jayanti College before joining the Oxford College of Sciences. She has also got a professional training into workshops on molecular biology from Bharatidasan University, crash courses on advanced diploma in genetic engineering, JIVAS Bangalore, refresher course on modern biotechnology techniques, Manipal University. She has contributed to almost 9 research project works, which falls under DST, FISD, Government of India, KTEC by SEP, Government of Karnataka, and made research project which includes DST projects, CT projects, VGST projects, as well as minor projects which includes KSU. Madam also holds 30 publications in national and national journals which are participated in many national and international conferences and symposia. She also has 2 books which she has published to her credit. One book chapter which includes 3 improvements in Red Sanders, which was published in 2019, Sanders Agriculture Springer Publications. She has quite a few awards and fellowships to her credit. And ma'am is also a journal and a magazine editor, which is does in the Oxford Journal of Science and Research. She is also a reviewer of quite a few journals and also a life member for quite a few professional bodies. Society of Plant Cell Biotechnology and Molecular Biology, Society of Sciences, International Society of Plant Morphologists, the Indian Congress Association, Society of Applied Biotechnologists. Of Department of Biotechnology, the Oxford College of Engineering, Principal, HOD, staff and students, we deem it a pleasure to have you as our resource person for today's session. Welcome to this session, ma'am.
Thank you.
And ma'am, it is over to you. Please kindly take over.
Yeah. Hope everybody is able to see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Good morning to one and all present here in this virtual meet. And I really thank you for such a nice introduction. At the outset, I wish to congratulate Dr. Manjunath, convener, for organizing the series of faculty development as well as the short-term training programs in association with the AICTE. I really thank him for giving me this opportunity for being part of this program. Well, coming to my presentation. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you please put it on the slideshow mode?
Yeah, I am doing that.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Give me 1 second. There is some small.
Ma'am, it is in slideshow mode, ma'am.
Here it is. I'm unable to see certain things. Now it's okay?
No, ma'am. Now it is not in slideshow. Previously it was in slideshow. Now. Yeah, ma'am. Now it is in slideshow.
Yeah. Yeah. So the title of my presentation is The Biopreneurship in Plant Tissue Culture, that is from research to revenue. Now, in the next 1 hour or so, I would be covering about the biopreneurship, about the biotech industry in India at the global level, and about the plant tissue culture industry, followed by the few success stories that we have encountered in our lab. Now, firstly, we need to understand what is biopreneurship. Who is a biopreneur? So, as you very well know, biopreneurship, as the name itself suggests, it's bio plus entrepreneurship, which forms the biopreneurship. So, now that means to say we need to now know what is an entrepreneurship. Who is an entrepreneur? So, as you very well know, an entrepreneur is the person who takes the risk and starts something new. So when I say he takes the risk and starts something new, that means to say a biopreneur is a person who takes risk and starts something new in a biotechnology field or a biological field or a science field. So now biopreneurship is nothing but it is an integration of two different disciplines. One is a science discipline, that is a biodiscipline, and then the entrepreneurship. So when we say biopreneurship, we have lot of expectations from these biopreneurs. Now what are these expectations? Now we expect a lot, we look forward for a knowledge-based economy from a biopreneur. Not only that, we look for a plant-based economy. We also expect a bio-entrepreneurship to feed the world. Look for the solutions to conserve the environment. We also expect a biopreneur to provide a diagnostic tool for the prevailing diseases. And also, we expect a biopreneur to develop a drug in another, which is drug development is another sector wherein we look upon a bio-entrepreneur to come out with a cheap and a best drug to cure the diseases. And not only that, nowadays, this industry is also looking for a personalized medicine. Overall, I would say that we look upon an bio-entrepreneur to provide solution for all the key issues that enhances the quality of life or a quality of an individual. Now, to do so, the biggest challenge of starting something new in the science field or also a biotechnology field is to make it to merge the scientific entrepreneurship to become or with commercial reality and making science or a biotechnology innovation a profitable business, which is not a very easy task. Now the question is, why is it a challenge? It is also like any other entrepreneurship, and challenges are there like any other entrepreneur. Now why the risk is? What the risk is? Why risk is there in this field? What is so special for an entrepreneur, biopreneur? So let us understand that. Of course, there is no doubt that it is also like any other entrepreneurship. Challenges are there in any type of entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship in biotechnology is strictly regulated by in this biotechnology industry. One has to get approval from ethical committees to do research and release a product. Suppose if it is related to a transgenic, then one has to have bioethics committee to approve animal trials, etc. Not only that, biotech based startup take more time for the development of the product. For example, it might be drug development or vaccine development, which requires very huge investment. Not only that, probably in millions of rupees or dollars to turn the idea into reality. That is one major risk one has to bear with. And above all, the major hurdle is the uncertainty. See, whatever the hypothesis that somebody has an idea or a proof of concept that he or she develops, for it to become a reality, lot of money is involved, lot of time is involved, and lot of risk is involved. Because after spending so much of time and labor, still one do not know whether the idea conceived will definitely turn into a reality. It's like a HUP, that is a Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which clearly says that the more precisely the position is determined, the less precisely the momentum is known. So in our case, we can definitely easily compare the technology with that of a position and success with that of a momentum. So the risk that an entrepreneur or a biopreneur, I should say, takes, or we can say the risk prevailing in this industry or in this biopreneurship, is the research. Because the hypothesis that a scientist or a researcher makes, the proof of concept he or she develops, can be scalable or not, feasible or not, is a huge risk. Not only that, of course, as I said before, a financial risk is another factor, as it involves huge investment, whether the angel investors are ready to invest, market is another risk, and so on. So now let us understand about the biotech industry, how the bioeconomy is, where it stands, what's the global economy and the Indian economy. Let us understand this scenario before we move on to biopreneurship in plant tissue culture. So now, as per the USDA, that is United States Department of Agriculture, released in 2018, the global economy stands at $355.8 billion, and it is expected to grow to $487 billion by 2025. When I say bioeconomy, it includes all the sector, that is biopharma sector, bioagri sector, bio-IT sector, also bio-research sector, and bio-industrial sector. Coming to the Indian bioeconomy, as per the BIRAC bioeconomy report released in the year 2020, I should say, bioeconomy stood at 62.7 billion and is expected to grow to rupees 100 billion by 2025. So as per the BIRAC bioeconomy report again, biopharma starts first, that is stands first, that is it occupies 58% of the Indian bioeconomy is mainly through this biopharma sector, 19% from bioagri sector, which accounts for about $12 billion, and bio-IT and research accounts for 15% and 8% from bio-industrial sector. So which means to say $36 billion industry, biopharma industry is, whereas bio-agri industry, which is what is important for us today because we are concentrating on bio-agri here. So $12 billion industry it is, that is it accounts for about 19% of the total bioeconomy. Coming to the plant tissue culture industry, plant tissue culture industry in India accounts for about rupees 500 crore. So, as you very well know, plant tissue culture is a tool or technique to produce large number of propagules using this homozygous plant cell material under a controlled condition in a limited space and in a relatively short period of time, and this can be achieved or used throughout the year. That is another advantage of using this tissue culture technology. And this industry is around rupees 500 crore industry it is. Now coming to the commercial tissue culture, the commercial tissue culture in India started in the year 1987 by A.V. Thomas and Company in Kerala. They actually established their first production unit in Cochin for clonal propagation of cardamom plants. This was actually a lab technology indigenously developed by National Chemical Laboratory, NCL, that is NCL Pune. And actually they released it to the AV Thomas and Company for scaling up. The company actually tied up with a UK based firm in order to make the method more productive and efficient. Later in the year 1988, Indo-American hybrid seeds came up in Bangalore, who were in nursery business actually. They imported this tissue culture lab and greenhouse, and then they started producing these hybrid flowers and also vegetables. So they used to produce about 10 million plants per annum. So then onwards, a lot of development happened in this sector, and more than over 100 companies were established by 1997. So well, in order to make the plant tissue culture technology a viable and also a viable commercial scheme for the industries, and also for the small scale entrepreneurs. Not only that, in order to make sure that high quality planting material is made available to the farming community especially for better returns, the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India came up with an idea of certifying the tissue culture raised plants. Simply because, as you very well know, in tissue culture, we get to see a lot of variations. Not only that, inadvertent micropropagation of virus infected plants will result in poor performance, and also it will result in undesirable spread of the virus. So to avoid all these and to regulate the genetic fidelity, DBT, that is Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, established this NCS, that is National Certification System for Tissue Culture Plants. Now, DBT, that is Government of India, is the certification agency, and the DBT has identified BCIL, that is Biotech Consortium India Limited, as a NMC, that means to say NCS TCP Management Cell, that is National Certification System Tissue Culture Plant Management Cell. So it is being mainly made like that, mainly to ensure coordination and also effective implementation. So their job is to, that NMC job is to recognize the plant tissue culture facility, production facility. Not only that, provide standard operating procedures for that, monitor the recognized tissue culture production facilities that are already been established or yet to establish. And not only that, it also should monitor the recognized accredited test laboratories and referral centers. There are many accreditation test laboratories that are being identified, and also referral centers are there. That also need to be monitored by NMC. That is the job role of an NMC. Now, currently, as I said, there are 4 accredited test laboratories. The one is our Central Potato Research Institute situated in Shimla. The other is our University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore. And then we have VSI, that is Vasant Sugar Institute, Pune, and also Indian Institute of Sugarcane Research situated at Lucknow. These are the 4 accredited test laboratories. Role of these laboratories will be checking for uniformity testing, and also they will be doing virus indexing and genetic fidelity testing for certification of batches of these tissue culture raised plants. Coming to the referral centers, there are 2 referral centers, one in IARI, that is Advanced Center for Plant Virology, IARI, New Delhi, and also National Research Center for Plant Biotechnology, that is also situated in New Delhi. So the role of these referral centers is actually to carry out confirmatory tests if required, and if there is any dispute or if any test results are not in confirmation, or if there is non-conformity of the results, and it is the role of the referral center to develop an SOP and then maintain that referral material. So till now there are about 85 tissue culture production facilities that are being recognized by the certification agency till today, and about 510 million tissue culture plants have been certified as of now. Coming to the demand in this sector, the demand in this sector is for mainly agricultural crops, horticultural crops, plantation crops, and also for forestry. And the demand is mainly for high quality, high yielding, disease free planting material. So that is what is in high demand. These are some of the major plants that is being produced through tissue culture in India. In horticulture line, we have banana, apple, pineapple, strawberry, and pomegranate. And in ornamentals, we have gerbera, anthurium, lilium. Orchids, these are also very much in demand. And also especially that cut flower industry is very much in demand, and a lot of export is also happening in this. And then bamboo is also being used as a one of the major one that is in demand. Then coming to the commercial crops, we have date palm, and then potato. Teak also is very much in demand, and also we have sugar cane, black pepper, even cardamom, and many more are there. These are few that I have named. Coming to the success stories that we have encountered in our lab, I would be sharing that success stories with all of you now. This is one success story that I would like to share today. This which happened in the year 1998. Actually, here this was done by one of my senior in our lab by name Dr. Seema Prakash. She went on to actually set up their own lab known as In Vitro International. Even today it is existing, In Vitro International. The CVO is Dr. Jitendra Prakash, her husband, and herself, Dr. Seema Prakash. She is also a CEO, I guess. And the main thing that they developed in our lab was the glass bead based liquid culture medium. Now, what is this glass bead based liquid culture medium? Why this was developed and all that I would like to tell you. As you very well know, when we say tissue culture, naturally agar and sucrose are the major contributors for this tissue culture, especially in terms of media cost. There are many other ingredients that go in, as you very well know, like potassium nitrate, ammonium nitrate, calcium chloride, many such things, that is NPK and many micronutrients, all that are required for the plant growth, all that has to be supplied. But major ingredient, that is agar and sucrose, these are the ones which add up to the cost, I should say. There are many more ingredients, but they don't add up to the cost, because it is the sucrose and the agar, because agar accounts for about 68% of the total media cost. So, and the purpose of this agar is just the anchoring, and it doesn't, it is not used as any of the nutrient or anything like that. Its role is to just anchor the plant and or to provide support to the plant. So when that is the case, why use agar? Because it is making the tissue culture media and also the cost per plant very expensive. So the what Dr. Seema Prakash did was, she tried to replace this agar with some other substrate, so that the cost of the medium can be reduced. So instead of agar, what they did was, they tried to use glass beads. You would have seen these marbles. Children even use these marbles to play. Okay. And also there are certain other marbles like glass beads, which we use in sterilizing purposes. For example, you must have heard this glass bead sterilizer. So instead of using spirit lamp during this tissue culture experiments, we can also use this glass bead sterilizer. Many of you would have seen that, or also would have used it in your labs. The idea is it is a method of dry heat way of sterilization wherein the glass beads are put into that glass bead sterilizer, and when we heat it up, okay, with the help of electricity, the glass beads get heated, and we can insert our forceps or also scalpel and all that. It becomes red hot, and then we can take it out, cool it, and start using. This is a dry heat way of sterilizing the instruments that we use in tissue culture experiment. So these small glass beads were also used by her in our lab in order to replace the agar. So in place of agar, either small glass beads or the marble or the larger glass beads, I should say, were used, and rest of the media was the regular media components that we use, like potassium nitrate, so ammonium nitrate, all the major and minor nutrients, even the vitamins, even the hormones can also be used, that is BAP or kinetic. All their ways used, only that it was a liquid medium, and of course sucrose was also there as a carbon source, and only replacement was this agar. Instead of agar, the small glass beads or the large glass beads were used, and she was able to achieve complete growth, complete plantlet regeneration with the help of this. The advantage of this was especially in the multiplication. See, first time when you start growing, even that time also you can use plant tissue culture media, raise it, shoot initiation can happen there. But when you do frequent subculturing for multiplication, probably 3 or 4 cycles we may have to do this multiplication. So during that stage, what we need to do is, what will be of help is, this type of liquid medium will be of great help, because multiplication requires 3 or 4 subcultures, and for all the 3 or 4 subcultures, if we are replacing the agar with something else, definitely it will reduce the cost of our micropropagated plant. With that, she was able to reduce the cost per plant to probably 1.02 rupee or 0.003 cents, something like that. So for this discovery of hers, or innovation of hers, she got 3rd prize in Global Women Inventors and Innovators Network, London. Every year this contest keeps happening, competition for new innovations. So wherein she displayed her, presented about her discovery or the innovation, for which he got a 3rd prize in Global Women Innovators Inventors Network, London, and that completely changed the complete scenario. And this is a clipping of what was those days announced in the newspaper. She was among the top 10 global inventors, and this is how the cultures look like. She tried it with many plant systems like ginger, and after that in our lab we have tried it in many other commercial crops also, like turmeric, ginger, mulberry. Mulberry was one material which I have personally used, and I have tried to raise the complete plantlet, multiply the plant out of it. So this is how the large glass beads and the small glass beads look like. And these are the tissue culture plants that have been multiplied using this technology, that is glass bead based liquid culture medium. And the first 2 are the mulberry plants, and the other 2 are the ginger and then the turmeric plants. Now, in the same way, lot of work happened in our lab in many other commercial plant species also. So as I said, if you can do the computation with respect to the regular Murashige and Skoog basal medium with that of small glass bead based liquid culture medium, we can clearly see that the MSBM will cost around 21.62 rupees, and this was computed long before. But now again, if you in today's rate, if you compute, it will be much more than what is projected here. Whereas the reduction of the cost is almost 50%, if we can see here. See, if we use SGB LCM, then 10.86 rupees only it will cost for the per liter of the medium. So that means to say the cost of agar will be rupees 14.72 rupees. and that 14 rupees can completely be reduced if we use this glass beads, because we can reuse this also. You need to just autoclave it, sterilize it, and again use it. So there is no question of continuous purchase of the agar also. So there is no recurring cost at all. It is an one-time investment of purchasing, and which is very cheap, cheaply available. So the cost per plant with respect to MSBM was 0.13 rupees it costed, whereas with a small glass bead based liquid culture medium it costed only around 0.02 rupees. So as agar accounts for about 68% of the total media, definitely there was a reduction in 84% cost when it comes to cost per plant. Same thing was published in an international journal. So this is the computation of the tissue culture media, what it is with the MSBM and what it is with the small glass bead based discrete culture medium. Of course, I would say that the type of chemicals we use also matters. Based on that, here and there may be some variation in the percentage, because if you use all high media chemicals for all the ingredients that we use like NO3, ammonium nitrate, etc. also, then definitely there will be some little more higher cost. But whatever all said and done, definitely there will be reduction in the cost. Okay. So this is one such paper that is being published. As I mentioned, cost per plant was 0.13, whereas with the use of SGB LCM, it costed only around 0.02, reducing the cost by 84%. This is one computation that we have done. Apart from this, see if you can see the cycles here. Okay. See, in the first cycle, yes, that much is the reduction. Now there only it doesn't end, because for us to have a complete multiplication to ensure mass production of the tissue culture plant, we need to do that 3 or 4 subculturing, okay, depending on the plant species. So in this 3 and 4 cycles of multiplication, we don't need any such anchoring also, because the plant would have already grown. You need to, the clump is already with you. So you need to just multiply it. So during multiplication, definitely these type of different medium would be of great help, because definitely we can reduce the cost drastically. So we have computed that also in the first cycle, how many plants were used and how much liter of the media will be used for all the 4 or 5 cycles that we do. Of course, in the 5th cycle, there is reduction in the multiplication. So only up to 4 cycles we have computed, and we can clearly see that it costed around 9.732 US, that means 0.22 US dollars with respect to MSBM, whereas it is half of that cost when it comes to SGB LCM. Now, apart from this agar, there are so many other alternatives that has also been tried in our lab. It is not only the glass beads that is being used. We have even tried with wheat flour. We have even tried with laundry starch, potato powder, rice powder, semolina, sago, psyllium husk, that is isabgol, it is known as. And also we have tried the permutation combination of all these. We have even tried, so after various combination, we have found that laundry starch is to potato powder with semolina had a good combination, wherein we had got a good result. We achieved good growth and multiplication, for the results of which I will show you in my coming slides. Now, apart from that, we also, it is not only the agar, as I said, it is sucrose also adds up to the cost. So we have even tried to reduce the cost of carbon source also. We have tried, instead of sucrose, as it accounts for about 24% of the total media cost, we have tried to use sugar crystals, even the double refined sugar, eating sugar, sugarcane juice, and many such alternatives has been tried singly, also in different combination. Of course, our results depict that eating sugar was found to be a best replacement for the sucrose. So here you can see another paper that is being published with respect to this, and we have here, we have even given the comparison of different types of different company chemicals that can be taken into consideration and how much differences is there. So suppose if we take Qualigens, which is known for its quality, it will cost around 6.36 sucrose, and agar would cost 15.2. Whereas SD-Fine, if you use it, will cost of only 5.40 for sucrose, but agar is little expensive there, which costs around 16. So there will be little variations. That is what I said before also. So total cost, if you can see, almost it will be in 22 to 23 rupees range. Okay, if it is a MSPM. Whereas if we replace agar as well as the sucrose, both if we replace, then naturally the cost per plant will drastically reduce. Okay, here we can see cost per plant is 0.02 rupees, if we can see. In almost all the types of company that we have tried, it is almost remaining the same when it comes to the final outcome or output. Almost 0.02 rupees per plant. So our alternative source for sucrose, which we found to be very good, is that 3% eating sugar with for replacement for agar is laundry starch, potato powder and semolina in 2:1:1 combination. Okay, so 50:25:25 ratio. This is what we have used, and we were able to reduce the cost per plant. See, 1.003 rupee it will be against 1.02 when we use MSPM, which I showed you in the last slide. So there is a drastic reduction in the cost per plant. Even we have tried with sugar crystals also, but it would cost one plant will cost 0.005, whereas with eating sugar and the laundry starch and all that, it will be even more lesser. That is why eating sugar can definitely be tried, we felt. So this is about the analysis about how the medium will be, whether it will be sloppy medium or also whether good firmness it will give, and all that is being shown here, and how much is the multiplication rate, all that is also shown here. We can see with potato powder 1:4 multiplication rate, and whereas with sago we have seen 1:5 multiplication rate, whereas with laundry starch, potato powder and semolina we have found 1:8 multiplication rate. That is why we suggested that those three combination was found to be better when compared to the other alternative sources tried. So here also with respect to the sugar crystals, we can see eating sugar and sugar crystals definitely is showing 1:8 multiplication rate, on par with the sucrose. So comparative analysis is also done. So on par with sucrose, it is also having healthy cultures, and multiplication rate is also good. That is why that was recommended to use, and many more experiments and many more crops have been grown by using these replacement technologies. Okay, and we have tried it in mulberry, ginger, turmeric, and many even in geranium we have tried, and many such plant systems we have tried that. Apart from that, another interesting substrate that we have identified in our lab is the cost-effective micropropagation of orchids, that is brick-based liquid culture medium. As you very well know, that orchids actually requires it doesn't actually require soil only to grow. It usually grows on the trees, on the bark of the trees, and many a times if you have seen, if you have grown orchids, or if you have seen in the orchidariums and all that, they use this coir or also coconut husk, and even sometimes charcoal is also used, and sometimes bricks are also used in order to grow these orchids. And these orchids require really high humidity, and not only that, they need not be watered every day. Once in a week or once in 10 days if we water, also more than enough, because the substratum on which it grows has the capacity to retain the water, and water retention capacity will be there in them, and because of which it grows very well on that. So that is keeping this in mind, we try to reduce the cost of multiplication of these orchids also, because orchid cut flower industry is also a very booming industry. Is lot of export is happening, especially to the European and also to the US market with respect to the orchids. Of course, Thailand are the major producers of these orchids, and they are the major exporters of these orchids, I should say. But of course, India is also catching up, and a lot of work is happening with respect to this. That is why we try to reduce the cost of this these orchids, especially to cater to this cut flower industry. So what we tried here is utilizing the nature's this thing. We got an idea of using this bricks in the tissue culture medium. What we have done is we have taken the bricks and then of course cut it into small cubes, and these cubes were actually sun dried and then were autoclaved and then again dried in hot air oven. Like that, nicely it was dried and sterilized. Two times autoclaving has been done in order to make sure, because whenever we talk about tissue culture, definitely the major problem is this contamination. So in order to avoid this, we have to take a lot of additional measures. So that is why we have twice we have autoclaved this, and then we have used this bricks in place of agar. Rest all the other ingredients, liquid culture medium, whatever it has to contain has been added. And then we have tried to go. So here we can see beautifully the protocom like bodies growing up, which later goes to form shoot and then finally multiply. So this is one technology which we missed to patent actually, because the awareness was lacking during those days, I admit directly, because in those days patenting was not very popular, and due to lack of awareness we actually went on to publish immediately, because our main idea was immediately to publish. So which we did, so hence because of which we missed patenting this. Of course, there are many more details which I am a little unable to share, because something similar to this we are now planning to patent. That is the reason I am unable to explain completely. So now this has definitely helped in multiplication of orchids, and not only that, reducing the cost of this micropropagated orchid drastically. Because, and here the important thing is this bricks, when we use, it has that capillary action. It will absorb the nutrients and it will slowly release it to the viable seeds and then into the protocom like bodies. Then it will start multiplying or producing shoot and then start multiplying. So water retention capacity and also nutrient retention capacity is there in these breeds. That is an added advantage, because they are porous and they can withhold the water. And it gives also a proper anchoring for our orchid plants also. So because of which we were successful in achieving this thing. Now coming to the smart technology that can be really utilized when we talk about use of technology with respect to the plant tissue culture is, as you very well know, maintaining the laboratory condition is very, very important when we say plant tissue culture. Because when we say when we say talk about plant tissue culture facility, naturally that comes to our picture is to monitor the controlled condition in the lab. Okay, so when I say the controlled conditions, what are these controlled conditions? We need to maintain the temperature say around 25 plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius. Of course, if it is an orchid, then the temperature varies because it requires a high humidity. Not only that, we need to even maintain the light intensity, say around 1000 lux has to be provided with the help of the fluorescent lamps. And for all these you need an automation, because otherwise manually doing all these regularly is not an easy task. Not only that, there may be many experiments in a tissue culture laboratory which may require 6 hours dark cycle and 6 hours light cycle, again 6 hour dark cycle, like that. So in 24 hours, every 6 hours you may have to change the conditions or the laboratory conditions and all that. So earlier we used to do it manually. Later we started getting these automated sensors which do the job for us, wherein we need to set the temperature, we need to set the hours and all that. So definitely using sensors will help in monitoring this lab conditions. That is one way, one place wherein we can use this technology in tissue culture. Not only that, many of the processes in the lab requires accuracy, because many a times the pipetting error will be there and many such errors will be there while performing the experiments, or also while preparing the media, or while weighing the chemicals, while adding the nutrients, while adding the growth regulators, many things like that. So automated process can be one place wherein we can use the technology in order to make it completely automated, to avoid completely the human error. Then even apps are nowadays used in order to measure the pH also, because pH is one thing which is again very important with respect to plant tissue culture, because of course if you use agar, definitely solidification of the media only will get affected if pH is altered. But when we use alternative sources like the one that we have used, naturally uptake of the nutrients will also get affected by the plant system if we do not maintain the right pH. So there are apps that use or measure this pH. That is another place wherein these technologies are used in order to maintain. Then of course, as I mentioned before also, contamination is one area which we have to take care like anything, because this contamination can occur in the last step also. We would have achieved everything, we would have grown the plant, it would have got multiplied, and it would be in a second or third cycle or a fourth cycle of multiplication also. But even then at that stage also, excuse me, even in that stage also the contamination can occur, because that is one thing, because bacteria and of course fungi are ubiquitous in nature, and any small exposure will definitely lead to, and whenever there is a media, it definitely attracts all this, because it can easily harbor those organisms also, and they will start absorbing those nutrients and start multiplying. So for which reason we need a real monitoring. So of course technology again can be used here. Digital solutions can be tried in order to identify and also to screen and also to monitor these contamination processes also. And nowadays even these drones have come into that, UAVs, we should say it as air vehicles, are actually used in order to, for many purposes in agri-tech, I should say, probably maybe for the spraying of the herbicides, maybe for the insecticides, and also to spray certain chemicals and all, biofertilizers, sprays and all that. Natural sprays also can be done through these drones that have been used, and it is also been tried for pollination, and this might be of a great help with respect to orchids, I should say. Of course, more than an agri-tech also, it will be definitely useful in agriculture. Apart from that, it is will also be of help in orchids also, because pollination is one major problem in orchids. Okay, so here artificial pollination is in practice, especially in orchids. We need to identify the right stage of this stigma. When it becomes sticky, we need to pick it up and then put it on the stamens for it to be pollinated, and then artificial pollination or hand pollination is very much in practice when it comes to orchids, because it is not easy in pollination there. So these drones can be of a great help with respect to pollination in with respect to the orchids, and of course in many other crop species also. And also nowadays even sensors are used in order to determine the plant health, how the soil type is, what is the soil condition is, and things like that can also be tried by using these sensors. So these are some of the smart technologies that are already in place. There are many players who are working on this, but the same thing can be utilized in the tissue culture labs also. For example, Ibrinov is one, a Netherlands company is one which is trying some of these smart technology. Even there is one more known as Ajat Infotech. They are also into these sensors to monitor these lab conditions and all that. Many such companies are coming. There may be many more who are coming up with these smart technologies in today's scenario, wherein IoT and also artificial intelligence can definitely help the agri industry to really grow and monitor and provide possible solutions for most of the other challenges that we face. I would rather say, see, I can share one more experience of mine here when I speak about technology, smart technologies. See, way beyond, way before, in the probably 2000, early 2010 maybe, 2013-14 maybe, I had a project on biofertilizer consortium being utilized in the farmers to educate the farmers on use of this consortium, and then also to train them to how to use and things like that. So when I was working on these biofertilizer consortium project of mine, what had happened was there are many more challenges when we really enter into the field. See, when we say in the lab to land, of course, in the lab, so many things we plan, so many ideas we think, and all that will work in the laboratory conditions, so no doubt in that. Whereas when it comes to real application in the tissue culture industries, many a times we find it really difficult. A lot of additional challenges we see, which we really do not even foresee when we are performing experiments in the lab. So one such thing that I could encounter was that we prepared this biofertilizer consortium, and then we also negotiated with the farmers, and we tried to help. We tried and identified a land, 1 acre of land in Kottanur village in Bangalore only. And we also identified few farmers who would come for this training program, and we tried to train them, and we use this biofertilizer consortium and try to grow this legume in that acre of land that was given to us. So now what happened was, after sowing, after few days of sowing, suddenly it was untimely rain, I should say. It was not the season at all for it to rain. It poured heavily. Now all our seeds, including our biofertilizer, coated seeds I should say, because it was coated with biofertilizer, everything got washed away the same day. So that was a major challenge that we faced. So probably any artificial intelligence solution that can really provide, of course, weather condition, weather monitoring reports are all available, but none of them was handy on that day because it was untimely. Now, probably some covering or some polythene covering that can come up immediately whenever it rains or something like that should be tried maybe in order to avoid these type of damages. Now again we prepared the consortium, and again we soaked it with in the seed, and then again we tried to sow and all that. Then there were a lot of rodents in that in the fields, which is very common, definitely, no doubt in that. They started eating up all the seeds, and even when some of the seeds, even if it sprouted or germinated, for those were also eaten up by them, and there was again 50% loss there. Then again we tried to fill up the land and tried to go, and this time we took some measures like making sure that we fence that area and things like that, which was again expensive for us to do. and many things like that. Then what happened, we had problem with it started growing little bit when the small saplings were there. The problem was with that of monkeys. Suddenly it used to come and attack and it's to eat away all that and go. So like that, lot of challenges are there when we talk about the environment, when we talk about the field trials and things like that. Probably artificial intelligence IoT will be of a great help, wherein we can definitely be alarm can be set wherein this is what is happening, like that. If we come to know, then or if any attack of monkeys are there, if we are alerted, then immediately we can go and take care of the damage and things like that. Many such possibilities can be explored with respect to technology. Definitely IoT and artificial intelligence, all these are going to really change the scenario of the agri industry anywhere, and in many of the countries, lot of it has been tried. Israel is one place wherein a lot of developments has happened with respect to agri-tech, even in Netherlands, many such places, no doubt, and we Indians are also booming up in this sector. And in the years to come, definitely we will see agri-tech as one of, because food is one thing which is an real basic essential component, and food security is another important component which needs larger and wider attention there. So with all this in place, agri-tech is definitely going to transform the industry the way we look at it. I think with that I will come to, I will end my talk. If you have any questions, I am open to answer. And I really thank the organizers for organizing these type of FTPs, STPs and all that regularly. It's not a one time. I have been seeing this happening regularly from the Department of Biotechnology. I really congratulate Dr. Manjunath for organizing these type of events very quite often and regularly, and I wish him all the best, him and also his department all the very best in all the future endeavors of theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your kind words. And of course, with support like with people support like you, we were able to organize the event like this. Now the forum is open for discussion. You can unmute yourself and you can ask the question, or you can type it in the chat box and you can get your queries answered.
I am unable to hear actually.
Dr. Sumana, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question. Please unmute yourself. Madam, please unmute yourself. Make it happen. You can type it in the chat box. You are not audible.
Ma'am, you are on mute. Sumana ma'am, you are on mute. I think some network problem from her end. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again on behalf of the principal, staff, and HOD staff and students of the Department of Biotechnology. We extend you a heartfelt gratitude for accepting our invitation and give such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. Thank you. Participants, with the kind consent of the convener, we are officially closing the session 1 of day 3. Please do join us at 11 a.m. for the next session. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.